545 An Introduction to God. Torah Mizmowr. Torah's Song. 11. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah. The covenant is renewed? Based upon the information we have considered, there can be no mistaking the enduring merit of the Torah. It is comprised of Yahweh's teaching and guidance, and it permeates his prophetic revelations. The Torah is the lone means God uses to direct his children to the covenant. Without the Torah, there is no covenant. As we continue our journey to understand the Torah through the words of the prophets, it is time for us to turn our attention to Yirma'yah, whom the world knows as Jeremiah. Like his predecessor, Yashar, Yirma'yah also focuses on the dire consequence of religious malfeasance. Although God's witness isn't stuck in time as are we mere mortals, should you be curious, Yahweh spoke through Yashar between 742 to 700 BCE and then, through Yirma'yah from 626 to 587 BCE. This means that Jeremiah lived during the waning days of the kingdom of Yahweh, known as Judah, and that he personally witnessed the destruction of Yerushalayim, known today as Jerusalem, by Babel, which we know as Babylon. That's pertinent because the Jewish Talmud was composed in Babylon, and still bears its name. Yirma'yah, whose name means rise up to Yah, shares a personal vignette at the beginning of his book. He acknowledges that Yahweh not only knows the future, he has already engaged in it, forming relationships with those 546 who would work with him to convey his message and advance his plan. And so now, Wah, the word, dabar, of Yahweh, Yahowah, our elohy, God has directed in his Torah, teaching regarding his Yah, existence, and our shalom, restoration, came to literally and consistently exist as, Yah, it actually and continually came to be as, Kal imperfect, God to me, elohy, in order to say, amar, to share and affirm, to promise and convey, Yirma'yah 1-4, in the period before, Barterim, in advance of the time, I formed you, Yazar, I prepared you, in the womb, Beaten, I knew you, Yada, I was aware of, familiar with, and chose you, and in the time before, Barterim, you were brought out of, Yatsamin, the womb of a loving mother and the point of origin, Racham, the maternal gestation of tender affection and compassion, I set you apart as, Kadashota, I dedicated you to being special, a prophet, Nabi, one who proclaims the message of God, a person who serves as a spokesman for God, to the people of different races and places, Lahagawim, to the Gentiles. You are my gift, Nathan Otter, I have provided, offered, and given you. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 1:5. Those who appreciate the nature of light realize that Yahweh can witness the past and future simultaneously, telescoping time as he sees fit. God has, therefore, seen our future and reported in our past what he has witnessed so that we would be prepared and also recognize that we can trust him. This proclamation differs from the introduction to Yashar in two meaningful ways, one of which is especially relevant. Not only is it vastly more personal, but it also identifies Yirma'yah as Yahweh's chosen witness 547 to the Goim, Gentiles, the people from different races and places. Yashar's introduction was written to Yahweh in Yerushalayim and, specifically, addressed Yahweh's wayward children. In Yashar, both the repulsively religious and the Goim were presented as adversarial and destined to die. Therefore, we should not be surprised that we find denunciations of the Babylonian religion throughout this book, including the use of Lord along with an overt condemnation of Christmas, Easter, the notion of a New Testament, and the Madonna. Turns out, Judaism isn't the only religion annoying Yahweh. This perspective regarding the intended audience of this book ought to have caused the whole world to pause because of what it portends. It means that Yahweh's angry rant against the religious establishment throughout the 23rd chapter of this prophetic pronouncement, with its crescendo being the scheme which replaced Yahweh's name with the Lord, was directed at Gentiles, and thus Christians, not just Jews. The same conclusion is also valid regarding the revelation that the covenant has not yet been renewed, and that when it is, the renewed covenant will be predicated upon a literal and complete incorporation of the Torah in our lives. Also, and on a directly related subject, Yirma'yah, Jeremiah was actually what Paul falsely claimed, to be God's witness to the Gentiles. In this way, he as chosen prophet told us that we should reject everything Babel's false prophet, Paul, had to say. Returning to this introduction, we find that, like Moses, Yirma'yah was a reluctant witness. He thought he was too young and perceived himself as anything but a linguist. And yet, unlike Moses who was 80 at the time he was called to serve, Yirma'yah was but a teenager. Therefore, we can assume that, while age is irrelevant to 548 Yah, and that young and old are both invited to proclaim his word, the recognition that we are flawed implements is a common trait among effective witnesses. And I said, amar, so then I exclaimed, alas, this cannot be, this cannot be happening, Yahweh, written as directed by his Torah, teaching, my upright one, Eden Eni, my foundation. Look, Hine, behold, be aware, and take note, I do not know, lo Yada, I am unfamiliar with, how to speak appropriately, Dabar, how to properly convey the word, because, ky, I am, Anki, a teenager, Nah, young. Yirma'yah 1-6. So then, Yahowah, Yahowah, an accurate presentation of the name of Eloah, God as guided by his Torah, instructions regarding his higher existence, spoke, Amar, as God to me, Eni. You should not say, Amar, I am, Anki, young, Nah, a teenager, because, ky, everyone whom, for sake of the relationship, asher, I am going to send you, shalakota, I am dispatching you, you should go, holak, you should embark on that journey, and then, everything, shirl, which, for the benefit of the relationship, asher, I instruct you, zawa you should consistently speak, dabar, you should communicate the word, peel imperfect. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 1:7. Age is neither a liability nor an excuse when working with God. Our eloquence does not matter either. Yahowah is good with words, and he has been around a while, so we can depend upon him when conveying his message. Moses, who also claimed to be an eloquent, became the most brilliant orator the world has ever known. And Daud, who began working with God at 8, was slaying giants shortly thereafter. While a witness to the prophets, I was 549, not too young in my 40s nor too old in my 60s to share the word of God with his people. With his response, Yahowah is also revealing that the prophet's words are his. He would direct Yirma'yah's footsteps and lips. What we read, God inspired. Speaking of the Gentiles generally, and of what Babel represents specifically, Yahowah said, you should not be frightened by their presence, al-yemin panahem, do not revere, respect, be awestruck by, or be afraid of their appearance because, indeed, ky, I am, Eni, with you, atah, to deliver and defend you, la natzalota, to keep you safe, prophetically declares, Naum, promises, Yahowah, Yahowah, God's name transliterated as guided by his Torah, instructions on his higher existence. Yirma'yah 1-8. And, Yahowah, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah, our Eloah, God as directed in his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence and our shalom, restoration, reached out, shalak, he extended, his hand, yodhu, and he touched me, naga, on my mouth, al pay Eni. Then, Yahowah, a transliteration of Yahowah as instructed in his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence, said to me, Amar el Eni, behold, Hine, I have bestowed and placed, Nathan, I have given and produced, my words, Dabarim Eni, my message and statements, in your mouth, Bar Peota. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 1:9. There are some perks associated with Yahowah worth mentioning even if they cannot be itemized on a financial statement. And while some of the most extraordinary include eternal life with the most interesting, being perfected by the best, adopted by the nicest, empowered, 550 enriched, and enlightened by God, I rather like being emboldened. I have vociferously criticized the world's religions, political agendas, military engagements, nations, and conspiracies, even history's most beloved individuals, and I have never hesitated, never cowered, and never wavered or ducked. Confidence and courage, along with a spirit of adventure, a desire to learn and then share, are among the attributes we share with our Heavenly Father. Yahowah's message continues to affirm that everything we read in this prophetic book was inspired by God. And while that is reassuring for those of us who love him and respect his Torah, it's devastating news for Yisraelite institutions and Goim nations, particularly those influenced by Babel, where religion and politics were intertwined. Addressing Yahowah's teaching, the first of 11 times Torah appears in Yirma'yah, Jeremiah is in the 8th verse of the 2nd chapter. There we find Yahowah revealing his frustration with the religious establishment. The priests, Harkohen, the ministers, have not asked, Lo Amar, where, and under what circumstances, should we expect to find, questioning where to look for, Yahowah, Yahowah, our Eloah, God as directed in his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence and our shalom, restoration. Because those who seize control over, tafas, as those who have been caught in the act of seeking to influence by placing something else above, kal participle, the Torah, ha-Torah, the signed, written, and enduring, Torah, way of treating people, providing the means to explore, find, and choose the source from which instruction, teaching, guidance, and direction flow, offering answers to facilitate restoration and return to that which is good, pleasing, beneficial, healing, and right. and that which causes us to become acceptable, and to endure, purifying us so as to provide an opportunity to change our 551 thinking, attitude, and direction, do not know me, lo yada any, they do not recognize or acknowledge me, and they do not respect or understand me, Cal Perfect. So, Wah, the shepherds, Ra, speaking of religious and political leaders tending and leading the sheep, have rebelled against me and have become offensive, Pashabar any, they are in open defiance, breaking away from me to expand their power, becoming indignant and revolting by transgressing against me. Even, Wah, the prophets, those claiming to speak for God, Nabi, convey a revelation, Nobba, in conjunction with, Ba, the Lord Baal, Ha-Baal, the one who seeks to control by lording over, owning and possessing others, claiming religious or political authority over people. But then afterward, Wah-Cha, in the end and behind their backs, they do not themselves value or follow their way, Lo Yal-Holok, they discount their guidance, and do not walk accordingly, becoming hypocrites regarding their Holokah. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 2:8. Obviously, this is a broadside attack against religion, with priests, prophets, and shepherds rebelling against and offending Yahowah while speaking on behalf of the Lord, Baal, aka Satan, acting like hypocrites in the process. They do not know Yahowah and are not even looking for him. Moreover, rather than prioritizing the Torah, they have superimposed their religious texts over Yahowah's guidance. This indictment applies to each of the religions which attempt to derive their legitimacy from the Torah and prophets. Rabbis replaced the priests, have claimed to be prophets, and in the process of shepherding the people, have written Yahowah out of their religion. Then they expanded their power by pretending to speak for God while actually serving the Lord and adversary, Baal. With their 552 Babylonian Talmud overshadowing Yahowah's Torah, misconstruing and misrepresenting God's testimony, these scoundrels claimed authority that did not belong to them. Complete hypocrites, they fooled Jews but not God. And although the same accusations could be laid at the feet of Christian pastors and priests, and even recognizing that this prophetic book was addressed to Goim, I think Yahowah is being consistent, and using his people's bad behavior to make an example of them. Moreover, Christianity and Islam remain the blight of rabbis run amok. Not only was Paul the principal inspiration and author of the New Testament, trained as a rabbi, but it also was the failure of rabbis that caused the religion to take root in their soil and grow out of their God's testimony. Had they proclaimed Yahowah's name, there would have been no room for Jesus. Had they acknowledged that Daud was the Messiah and Son of God, the claims made of Christ would have died with the myth, especially if the rabbis had accepted and acknowledged Daud as the Passover lamb. As for Islam, the Quran is the product of rabbinical malfeasance. Rabbis profited by selling their Talmud stories to Muhammad, which he used to make his Quran recitals appear credible. Without these stories, the allure of his authorization to rob and rape the world with Allah's blessing, there would not have been a jihadist, much less millions of them. And then, adding insult to injury, there is Rabbi Akiba, the founding father of Judaism, with his pronouncement of the false Messiah which precipitated the Roman invasion and resulting diaspora. It takes a special kind of stupid to venerate such a deplorable fellow. Ultimately, the false prophets, unauthorized priests, and misleading shepherds among Jews have been their own 553 worst enemy, having created each of the three religions Yahowah is condemning, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And all the while, not one of them recognizes their duplicity and hypocrisy or accepts responsibility for the horrible abuse they, and the religions they inspired, have inflicted upon Yisrael and Yahweh. But be certain of this, while rabbis and those under their spell are continuing to antagonize Yahowah while claiming to serve him, God is cognizant of their master, of their allegiance to the Lord Baal, and he will hold them all accountable. This is about as forthright a rebuke of religion as anything we have yet considered. These priests are not Yah's ministers but, instead, the Lord's. They are not only serving Baal, but they are also completely clueless as to where a person should look to find Yahowah. And that is because they have hidden the Torah, even dishonored it, plastering over God's teaching with their jibber-gabber, whether that be the Talmud, New Testament, or Quran. Those who claim to speak for God, who say that they are serving God, even that they are authorized by him, do not know Yahowah. Those who act as if they are shepherds, guiding, feeding, and protecting the flock, are themselves rebelling and transgressing against the very God they say they represent. Those who speak in the name of the Lord are doing just that. Satan has achieved his ambition, which is to be worshipped as God. And it is the rabbis who made this possible. The Torah is the fulcrum of this proclamation between representing Yahowah or speaking for the Lord. The way a person responds to Yahowah's instructions influences everything else, even their spiritual associations. In this indictment against religion, I'd like to share an additional insight. Yahowah is expecting us to find him 554 and come to know him by observing his Torah. The religious working against him seek to lord over Yahweh's testimony to control the faithful and preclude access to God. The battle between religion and relationship has always been a matter of subjugation versus liberation. And where there is oppression, there is a Lord lurking behind the scenes. The Torah is front and center again in the 8th and 9th chapters of Yirma'yah. It is once again set in opposition to the religiosity of Yahweh's wayward people. This is the same message we read in Yeshaya, and Hosea, and now Yirma'yah. It is impossible to blame the antipathy being brought down upon Judaism, upon the prophets conveying it, when they are all speaking with the same voice. This is not only goddamn religion, Yahweh is pursuing the institution with a vengeance. Even the rotting bones of those who misled his people are being exhumed and denigrated. Since the opening line reads at that time, it is germane to our understanding that the previous chapter concludes with the people celebrating Yahweh's return. At that time, Bah-ha-eth ha-hai, prophetically declares, Naum, Yahweh, Yahweh, the bones, etzem, the physical essence, of the Jewish leaders and counselors, Melech Yahudah, will be withdrawn, Yatsah, along with the skeletons, etzem, of religious and government officials, Sahu, of those who were empowered, ruled, and governed, the bones of the clerics and ministers, etzem ha-Kohen, the physical remains of those who claimed to speak for God, etzem ha-Nabi. And even the skeletons of those 555 inhabiting Jerusalem, etzem ha-Yashab Yerushalayim, from their burial sites, min kebahem. Yirma'yah 8-1. And they will be spread out and exposed, shatakhem, to the sun and to the moon, la-ha-shemesh la-ha-urayak, and to all the hosts of the heavens, la-shel shamaim, which they adored, asher ahabhem, which they have served, asher abadhem, which they have established their halakha after, asher holakacharhem, which they have sought and petitioned, asher diroshem, and which they have bowed down to and worshipped, asher shakar. For them, lahem, there will be no harvest, lo asaph, and no tombs, lo kabar, such that they will become as dung, hyaladoman, upon the ground, al-panahar or dharma. Yirma'yah 8-2. Then, dying, moith, will be more desirable, basha, than continuing to live, minchayim, for all of the remaining remnants of descendants, la shel ha-sha'eryth, who survive, asah, this evil, religiously corrupt race, disingenuous nation, and unpleasant people, min ha-misfaka ra-ha-joth, family of related clans and tribes, within every one of the places, shel ha-makam, where I left them, ha-shah asher, and thrust them aside, nadakhem sham, prophetically announces, Naum. Yahweh of the spiritual implements, Yahweh Zaba. Yirma'yah 8-3. And you should say to them, Wa'amar elhem, this is what has been spoken by Yahweh, amar Yahweh, if they continually fall, ha-nafel, and do not get up, lo kum, if one consistently turns away, imshub, and does not come back, lo shu. Yirma'yah 8-4, then why, what is the point of these people having abandoned the relationship, Maduashu ha-hazeh, with Yerushalayim 556 Yerushalayim perpetually backsliding and continually rebelling, excelling in defiance, Mashu nazak, always being wayward, erroneous, and off on the wrong path. They have firmly established themselves, chazak, they encourage being stubborn, as deceitful and even delusional, bah-ha-tamith, upon that which is patently false, implausible, and fraudulent. They refuse, man, to change or return, la shub. Yirma'yah 8-5. I have paid attention and I have listened attentively, kashab, and I have heard, shama, nothing that has been correctly spoken, lo ken dabar. Not a single individual, einish, relents, nachum, from his association with evil, from his malignant, and displeasing ways, al-rahu. And then, he protests, la amar, what have I done, ma-sa. Every one of them turns away to their own course of life, shel hushu, bar-maruz ahem, similar to a horse charging into the battle, karsuz shataf bar ha-milchama. Yirma'yah 8-6. Even the stork, gamche siddur, in the sky, bar ha-shamaim, knows the appointed times to assemble and meet, yada high, and the dove, wator, the swallow, wasuz, and the nightingale, agur, are observant, shamar, regarding the time, eth, of their return and arrival, bohenna. But my people, ani, are ignorant of, lo yada, the means to make informed and rational decisions regarding the resolution of disputes and the judgment, mishpat, of Yahweh. Yirma'yah 8-7. How can you say, Eka or why do you claim, we, Anaknu, have the capacity to understand and are wise, learned religious sages, Charkham, we have knowledge and are discerning regarding prophetic pronouncements, and also, the Torah, Torah 557, the teaching and instruction, the guidance and direction, of Yahweh, Yahowah, is with us and ours, ethanakyu. Behold, hine, now pay attention, most assuredly, Arkan, this is a misleading and debilitating lie and mistaken belief, laha sheker, this is a counterproductive deception, a vain and delusional fraud and a breach of trust, which was perpetrated by, asah, worked and performed by, engaged in and accomplished by, the errant and fraudulent writing implement, et sheker, the deceitful stylus and duplicitous pen, of the scribes and authorities, tsaba, of those who write for political, religious, academic, or military purposes. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 8:8. It's hard to know what to say. This is so painful for God and so unnecessary for his people. Why, my God, why would Yisrael engender such animosity? It is hard to imagine infuriating Yahowah, who has been so supportive and generous, to the point he must dig up the rotting bones of those who misled his people, spreading them as dung on a field. God wants his people to realize just how repulsed he is by them. The Haredi ultra-Orthodox have become so revolting to Yahowah, he not only sees them as human excrement, he wants his surviving family to view them as he does, so he has put the feces on display just long enough for everyone to get a whiff of its stench. When God paints the religion of his people, it is a horrid portrait. Judaism, like so many other religions, was cobbled together by intermixing the myths promulgated in Babylon with misrepresented aspects of God's testimony. Therefore, the Babylonian affinity for the sun, moon, and stars, for Bel, the Lord, as well as their calendar and religious holidays, were incorporated and revered. So, God is presenting their bones as an offering to their gods. 558 As fixated as religious Jews have become regarding their burial rites, even retrieving their dead so that they can be laid to rest on native soil, God is upending all of that by having the land reject them, vomiting them out of the earth. For the souls of the religious, there will be no harvest and no rest. This leads to one of the most vital and least understood concepts presented by God and, thus, reported here in Yada Yahowah. By saying that, upon his return, religious Jews would rather die than live, the Almighty is revealing that there are two outcomes for wayward souls. The preferable way is to have one's soul extinguished, ceasing to exist. But the Haredim will not be so fortunate. They will continue to live estranged from Yahowah, and thus endure hell. It is an infinitely small, eternal, completely dark, inescapable place of incarceration for the souls of those who belligerently denounced Yahowah's name, plastered over his Torah, abandoned his berith, and perverted his mode. The resulting three fates must all exist for Yahowah to be fair and honorable. Those who choose him and accept his conditions are adopted into his family and live forevermore in his presence, inheriting all that is his to give. This is the path we find in the Torah, delineated in the berith, and enabled by the Mikra. For souls who do not avail themselves of these things, but who do not lead others away from them either, there is nothing more to life, no reward or penalty, no joy or suffering. Their souls cease to exist upon the conclusion of their mortal lives. This is the fate of the vast preponderance of people. We have seen, and it cannot be denied, that, when it comes to either misleading or abusing his people, Yahowah neither forgives nor forgets. He will hold all such individuals accountable, just as we will witness him 559 exhuming their bones. God will not allow the religious dung to die and there will be no respite for their reprehensible souls. But it does not end there. As the Father who has endured unspeakable horrors committed against those he loves, long centuries of torture and torment, with much of it occurring because the religion and politics of his people created the conditions for evil to incubate, God is angry. His religiously corrupt race, this disingenuous nation, these unpleasant people, will be permanently thrust aside. With the future so vividly presented, with the past so graphically portrayed, with the consequence so grievous, and with nothing to support the religious claims to the contrary, God asks the Haredim why they continue to turn away from him. What was the advantage after so many centuries of failure for them to continue to abandon the relationship and rebel against him? With his Torah available and proven, why perpetuate the deceit of the Talmud, why remain estranged? Inexplicitly, in spite of the warning, notwithstanding the disparity between what man and God are offering, with the truth being so readily available and verifiable, not a single individual would relent, not a word spoken by these people was accurate. Is it any wonder Yahowah chose to exorcise the malignancy? Tormented by their Talmud, and depreciating the Torah, religious Jews do not understand the means Yahowah provided to resolve the issues which separate us. They have so misrepresented and convoluted the Mikra that they are of no value to them. In spite of this, the most senselessly arrogant people on the planet claim to be wise as they venerate religious sages who are no brighter than zombies. Yes, they have a Torah, but theirs is from Babylon. 560 Throughout questioning Paul, I accuse the man Yahowah calls the plague of death of wielding a poison pen. But he was not alone. Other rabbis have done likewise, conjuring a fraudulent and duplicitous religion, sufficiently erroneous to engender Yahweh's unremitting wrath. As a result, for the leaders of Yisrael, then and now, there will be no harvest, not even a tomb, and, thus, no remembrance of them. The stench of the holocauste they established and the things they worshipped will linger just long enough for us to appreciate how much God hated them. The learned sages and wise men, Charkham, the religious interpreters who claim to understand, shame and humiliate themselves while they confuse and disappoint, Bosh. They have been caught, naked, they have made their choice, they have clung together, and they have been immovable, having ensnared themselves by providing mistaken information, Nifil imperfect, for behold, Hine, they have rejected and spurned, Mas, they have sought to avoid and circumvent, the word, the bar, of Yahowah, Yahowah. So, whose wisdom and insights are they offering, and what value is it to them, Wa Chakmamar Lahem. Yirma'yah 8-9. Indeed, KY, from, Min, the least significant, Katan, and up to, Wa'ad, the greatest and most important, especially influential, gadowl, every one of them, Sherlhem, will be cut off, Batsa, for having dishonestly taken advantage of others, defrauding them, Betsa, for having used deception to satiate greed for material wealth. From, Min, the prophet, Nabi, those who claim to be inspired and speak for God, and including, Wa'ad, the priest, cleric, and minister, Kohen, the priesthood, Reed, 561 pastors and popes, every one of them, Sherl, all of them without exception, engage in and promote, asah, perform and profit from, useless deceptions and debilitating lies, sheker, egotistic vanity and utter futility, disappointing and misleading frauds. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 8:10. What more does anyone need to know about God's position on religion to disassociate from it? How does anyone justify being religious? This indictment is unequivocal, undeniable, indisputable, irrefutable, and universal. Religious Jews esteem the sages Yahowah disparages. From God's perspective, the men whose opinions comprise the Talmud are so confused it is humiliating, and disappointing to believe them. Rather than speak for Yahowah, they are opposed to him. They have been caught in a horrid lie. So, God asks a probing question. Since the rabbis are not speaking for him, since they have sought to circumvent the word of Yahowah, whose insights are they offering? The best one could hope is that they are speaking for themselves, but if so, why trust them over God? And if not, since Yahowah has said as much, then they are representing Baal, the Lord who is Satan, the adversary, and that is a serious problem with dire consequences. Yahowah continues by affirming that the rabbis are not only entrenched, but they are also of like mind, clinging together to give the false impression that their implicit unanimity makes them appear credible rather than contentious. God also states that the problem is invasive, with everyone affected. Judaism has gone viral among his people. And the symptoms are deviousness, conniving manipulation, and wanton thievery, consistent with the underhanded money-grubbing persona that has been 562 projected upon Jews by the conspiratorial. That being the case, and God is saying that it is an accurate assessment, then aren't the rabbis responsible for the suffering Jews have endured over the years? Affirming once again that his disagreement with the world's religious community is based upon their disregard for his Torah, we find the following declaration in the 9th chapter. Who is he who offers, my Nathan, who is it that gives, my first and foremost, Rosh Eni, my finest and most important things right from where I began, water, Mayim. My eyes, Wa'in Eni, are flowing, Makor, with tears, Daimar. I weep, Baker, day and night, Yomam wa Layla, for the defiled and slain, Ethchol, women, Bath, daughter, of my people, Ameni. Yirma'yah 9-1. Through his prophet, Yahowah is asking a serious question, who is offering to quench the thirst, to bring cleansing and life-sustaining water, to those I value most, my first and foremost and, thus, to Yahweh, Jews. Since this is a crucial, life-preserving mission during a most difficult time, God will pursue this question in the next statement and then return to it in the 12th verse. It has become painfully clear that Jews have caused God to cry. He weeps for them and over them day and night. And while their reprehensible religion has caused much of his sorrow, God is also saddened by what has been done to them. 563 again, asking us to contemplate who Yahowah has chosen to convey this message, and why he wants to work through this individual, we read. Who is he, who can offer me, my Nathan Eni, where is he who is actually and consistently willing to provide and produce for me, Kal imperfect third person masculine singular, by pondering the who, what, where, why, when, and how of the message, bar midbar, through contemplating the questions answered in the word, a way to endure the time of darkness, malone, a means to pass the night, from mar and loon, to contemplate abiding in the darkness. It is someone on a journey, traveling from one place to another, ara, on the proper path, kal participle, his life is defined by this sojourn, because I want to release and then restore, ending and then renewing, to its original condition the relationship, wa azab, I would prefer to abandon, foreclosing on the relationship and then solicit help, paving the way to restore and renew it, kal imperfect cohortative. A first-person expression of volition which should be interpreted literally, which has ongoing ramifications regarding abandoning and then re-establishing the relationship, with my people, ethameni, preferring to walk away from them but also wanting to follow after them, wa holok minhem, because I am inclined to move away from them and also to lead and guide them in their journey, kal imperfect cohortative. This is because, ky, they are all unfaithful and, without exception, commit spiritual and religious adultery, shirl hem naf, they have all broken the vows of the covenant, as an assemblage of treacherous traitors, at Serabajidim, as a congregation of the unfaithful who betray in the company of the dishonest while dressed in disgusting and offensive apparel. Yirma'yah 9-2. 564 Yahowah is looking for help, for someone who is willing to work with him, someone willing to scrutinize his testimony, and explore his message, explaining it to his creation such that life's great questions are answered. The world is growing dark, and so God wants someone to provide a light, the very enlightenment his words provide. To achieve his purpose his way, Yahowah needs to work with us, not apart from us. For the sake of the covenant, God has sought the company and active participation of men and women. This has been and remains the prime objective. Sometimes, however, workers are few and far between. And yet, somehow, God always finds the right person at the right time. In this situation, Yahowah needed someone who was willing to explore his Torah, Nabi, wa Mizmowr, and find the answers to the questions his people should be asking. This time, he needed someone who was willing to seek and share his light during the darkness before his return. This would be the last chance, and so God's implement would have to be resolutely committed to the mission, never wavering from it. God's guy, his partner in the final pursuit of his people, would be a man on a mission, perhaps even more resolute, and uncompromising than either Moses or Daud. And this is because God is conflicted, as he should be. His people, Jews, have been awful toward him, and for an awfully long time. Not just some of them, not even most of them, all of them. So, God is justifiably annoyed with those he has been so devoted to saving. He wants nothing to do with them, largely because they want nothing to do with him, and he isn't about to force himself on them. And yet, he made a promise to restore and renew his relationship with them. For that to happen, some of them must change. And that is not going to magically transpire after 2,500 years of wholesale abandonment without assistance. 565 With Yahowah wanting nothing to do with the repulsively religious or moronically political, and with time running out before his return on Yom Kippurim, the day of reconciliations when he is duty-bound to restore the covenant relationship with the remnant of his people, something, or someone, has to Nathan, give. God's dilemma is beautifully articulated with azab scribed in the cohortative mood. God wants to release and restore his people. He wants to abandon the preponderance of them while paving the way to renew his relationship with those who are willing to change. Stated another way, Yahowah wants to walk away from them and chase after them. Without a single Yahweh to serve as a prophet, with his people universally unfaithful, with Jews acting like a sorry collection of treacherous traitors, God solicited a gadowl to convey this message to his people. The first words, scribed in the prelude of the first volume of Yada Yahowah announcing our journey from our world to God's began, we are embarking on life's greatest adventure. It will take us to a place few have experienced, which is surprising considering the unfathomable riches we will encounter along the way. Our path is so far removed from the road mankind has become accustomed to traveling, for all but a score of the past 2,500 years, no one, not a single solitary soul, has attempted this voyage through words, places, and time. By continuing, we will meet God. Evidence and reason will lead us to him. We will come to know Yahowah, appreciate what he is offering, and understand exactly what he expects from us in return. We are headed to the seventh dimension, well past the observable constraints of Euclidean space. They bend their tongues as a deceptive weapon, wa darak eth lashon hem shethem sheker. A lack of honesty, dependability, and integrity, wa lo emunah, has become prevalent, gabar, has risen to the point of being overbearing, throughout the land, bar ha-eres. 566 Because, ky, they produce, while proceeding, yatsah, from one form of evil to another, from corruption to depravity, min ra el ra. They do not know me, acknowledge me, understand or respect me, wa eth any lo yada, prophetically announces, Naum, Yahowah, Yahowah, of the vast array of spiritual implements, Zaba, of hosts, from Forkja. Yirma'yah 9-3. There was not a Yada among them. So, to rectify that situation, to resolve the dearth of trust, the lack of integrity, and the absence of understanding, Yahowah would import a Yada, finding one or, more correctly, developing one for his people. Everyone, each person, should be on their guard, closely considering, Shema, choosing to be observant regarding, nephil imperative, the accounts of their loud-mouthed and disingenuous fellow countrymen, Yirma'yah, and even all of their brethren, while sha'eryth, because no one is trustworthy or credible, not even remotely believable, al-baytach. Every relative is mistaken and deceptive, and thus will betray, sha'eryth, and every outspoken and dishonest neighbor, sha'eryth, goes about slandering with misinformation, rakelholic, traffics in fake news and counterfeits information. Yirma'yah 9-4, and this is why an outsider, a gadowl, was needed to rectify this deplorable situation. And this explains why Jews would be so opposed to him, just as they are to the God he represents. At the time of his calling, there wasn't a single Jew conveying the truth. And apart from those enlightened by this witness, there still aren't any. To a person, his repugnant countrymen, Yirma'yah, are deluded and deceptive, Talal. The 567 truth, emith, is not spoken, lo debar. They have taught, lamed, they have instructed, their tongues, lashon hem, to convey lies, debar sheker, to perpetrate fraud and disappointment, becoming wearisome, la, in their perverse corruptions, awa. Yirma'yah 9-5. Such is Yahowah's assessment of the religious and political leadership of Israel, including the Jews they have influenced. As verification, search to find Yahowah's name proclaimed anywhere within Israel or even an honest assessment of his prophets. You have established your dwelling, you live and remain, Yashabota, surrounded by deliberate dishonesty, intentional betrayal, and premeditated frauds, talk murmur, with an added layer of subtle guile, vain support, treachery, and deceptive distortions, murmur. They defiantly refuse, man, to find out or acknowledge, Yada, to be made aware, to know, respect or understand, anything about me, any, prophetically announces, Naam, Yahowah, Yahowah. Yirma'yah 9-6. Ouch. Prophetically, Yahowah announced that rabbis are knowingly and deliberately lying about him, his Torah, Barith, and Mikra. Judaism is an intentional fraud, a premeditated betrayal of the people and truth. When it comes to knowing Yahowah, as he presents himself in his Torah, Nabi, Mizmowr, religious and political Jews draw a complete blank. They are completely clueless. The very people to whom Yahowah revealed himself now know nothing about him. And now, you know the reason for Yada Yahowah. Therefore, Laken thus says, amar, Yahowah, of the vast array of spiritual implements, Zaba, so now I will refine them, Hine Torah 568 hem, testing and examining them, Bachan hem, for what else can I do, Ky ekasar, as a result of the characteristics of my people, Min pana am eni. Yirma'yah 9-7. There is nothing pleasant about being refined. And yet, religious and political Jews are so distant from God, so corrupted by impurities, there is no other way left but to remove the dross if Yahowah is going to find the few who are worthy. Their tongue, lashon hem, is a deadly and murderous, shaket, arrow, shay's weapon. It speaks, debar, dishonestly, perpetrating an intentional betrayal and deliberate fraud, murmur. His mouth, pehu, speaks, debar, of peace and harmonious relations, with his neighbor, Ethriahu, but inside, Wakirebhu, he is predisposed, sim, to ambush him, Orabhu. Yirma'yah 9-8. Should I not hold them accountable for this, ha alalale lo pakad barhem? Prophetically declares, Naam, Yahowah. Although behold, what if, surely in the future, with a gadowl, non-Yisraelite, gadowl, with someone who is not Jewish, who, by comparison to this shows the way to the benefits of the relationship, ashakaze, with the likes of one devoted to showing the way to get the most out of life, cannot my soul take vengeance and seek justice, lo nakam nepesh eni, what would preclude me consciously administering punishment for the harm which has been done, hitpale imperfect third person feminine singular. Independently seeing to impose an eternal consequence for bad behavior. Yirma'yah 9-9. Oh my! There is an unexpected answer. It seems as if God is going to extract retribution against the religious 569 through a gadowl. That is certainly going to ruffle a lot of feathers and make some kippahs fly. It is, however, understandable. This is Yahowah's time to celebrate his family reunion. The last thing God would want at this moment is to be tasked with judging these perverts and conceited ingrates. It is not the company he desires. That said, by orchestrating this process, the souls that the political and religious have tormented will find some closure knowing that those who tormented them will be held accountable. Upon the mounts, I will lift up and carry away, nasa, I will bear and forgive, kal imperfect, the sorrow derived from this anguishing and lamentable situation, beki wa nai, weeping and wailing. Upon the beautiful encampments among the pastures, wa al nawa, the most laudable and fitting abode and most honorable home, where the word is pondered, midbar, to inquire about the who, what, where, why, and when of the message, also wilderness, from my, to ponder bar, the word, a song will be written to express the sorrow over having to take this stand, kaina, lamenting the need to stand up in this way to establish something which endures, from kum, to rise up and endure. By contrast, ky, they are ablaze, yazath, they are kindled and brightly burning, afire and glowing to an exceptionally high degree, these individuals, ish, whose corruption is removed and disintegration thwarted, min bailey, through Passover, obar. So, there will not be heard, wa lo shama, the sound or call, kaul, the audible voice, of the flock which has been redeemed, mikna, of the herd which has been acquired because the price was paid to ransom them, to fly to the 570 heavens, ofha shamaim, like a bird on a wing into the spiritual realm. Meanwhile, wa'ad, as part of the enduring witness and restoring testimony, the muted beasts, behema, the silenced animals, are banished, nadad, for their walk, holok. Yirma'yah 9:10. Yahweh's covenant children are safe because they capitalized upon what Yahweh accomplished between these restorative mountains. We are in God's pasture, enjoying His wonderful home. Immersed in His words, we have composed a new song, grateful and yet sorry that our Father had to endure so much to redeem us. In contrast to those below, we are ablaze in Yahweh's light, through which everything that had once corrupted our souls has been removed. Having celebrated Pesach, we are immortal and now perfected children of God. The surviving flock has been redeemed, and we are soaring in Shamaim. God is ready to clean house and rid it of the beasts which were bred in Babylon, and which evolved in Persia, Greece, and Imperial Rome, becoming Roman Catholicism. And so then, I will bestow and cause, Nathan, Yahushalem, Yahushalem, the source from which teaching and guidance about reconciliation flow, to be a pile of rocks and rubble, even feces and dung, gal, of defilement and excrement followed by a place of fountains and surging waves, this den, maun, of monstrous serpents, tan, of beastly omnivores who forage for flesh at night. Then, the cities and shrines of Yahweh, I will appoint and cause, Nathan, desolation and total destruction, Shemama, 571 astonishing and stunning ruin, such that they are devoid of inhabitants, min bailey yasab. Yirma'yah 9:11. This destruction of Yahushalem, such that all that remains are the rocks upon which it rose, is a very good idea, something that needs to be done. Having been there and witnessed the corruption of this place rife with Hasidic Jews, Catholics, and Muslims, and polluted with their shrines, I was embarrassed for God and felt dirty just being in their midst. The same is true for Yahweh's other cities, Bethlehem and Hebron, both of which are infected with Muslim Fakestinians. It is time to clean house and start over. So now as promised, Yahweh asks, who is the individual, my ha-ish, who, as a result of his intellect and disciplined, systematic approach to learning, is discerning, ha-chakam, who is sufficiently wise, has put the pieces together to understand this, wa bineth joth, has made the proper associations and connections between these things to comprehend this, and for whom, wa asher, to show the way to get the most out of life and benefit from the relationship, has the mouth, pei, of Yahweh, spoken, dabar, to the one, elohy, who can report the purpose of this information straight away, publicly and openly, wa nagad high, corresponding to another, broadly and clearly enlightening by explaining the message. Should you be seeking an answer to this question, one Yahweh just answered, you may want to glance at the cover of the book you are reading. God wants you to know, over what and why, amar, is the land, sha'eryth, the earth, lost, having gone astray, and then destroyed, abad, degraded by wandering aimlessly, life squandered and annihilated, struggling, stripped and spoiled, even 572 devastated, nazar, in flight and desolate, wasted and in ruins, similar to questioning the word, kaha midbar, comparable to a desolate wilderness, but without observing Passover, min bailey obar. Yirma'yah 9:12. The land, even the earth, was lost when so many lost sight of the Torah. Even in Yisrael, there isn't a lot left to salvage. Between the ultra-Orthodox and the progressives, the Licudian conservatives and the Fakestinian Muslims, there may be a 10 to 20% sliver of non-politicized agnostics who could one day be open to Yahweh's testimony. This realization leads us to the inclusion of Torah in the prophecy which brought us to Yirma'yah, Jeremiah 9 in the first place. So, Yahweh, Yahovah, our Eloah, God as directed in His Torah, teaching regarding His Hayeh, existence and our Shalom, restoration, says, Amar, promises and declares, it is because, the reason is the fact that, they have abandoned and forsaken, even damned themselves by rejecting, as abhemeth, they have rejected and disassociated themselves from, my Torah, guidance, Torah my instructions, directions, and teaching, which, for the benefit of the relationship, asah, to show the way to get the most out of life, I gave, placing it before them, Nathan la Panahem. They did not listen, while lo Shama, you have not used your sense of hearing to receive, to the sound of my voice, kaul nor do they walk, while lo Holok, in it, Bahai, in association with her, speaking of the Torah which is a feminine noun. Yirma'yah 9:13. Rather, they continually walked, Holok, they journeyed on a path through life in Holorka, kal imperfect vorf consecutive, following, achar, and retreating back after, the stubbornness and adversarial 573 nature, sha'eryth, the hardness which represents a reluctance to change, from shirah, the antagonism, of their hearts and attitudes, labhem, of their judgments and ambitions, while also, following after, achar, the Lord, Baal, Baal, the one whose ambition it is to rule over, possess, control, and own. Serving as Satan's name and title, which, asher, they learned, lamidhem, they were trained and taught, instructed and directed, from their fathers, abhem. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 9:14. Bad things happen when someone neglects Yahweh's Torah. And considering the catastrophic mess the world is in today, we are up to our collective behinds in neglect. And there is no excuse. There are billions of copies available and billions more via smartphones and computers via the internet. But neither does any good if the former sits unopened on the shelf and the latter is used for porn and social media. As for Jews, Yahweh placed His Torah right underneath their noses. And yet, among the many travesties occurring under the abhorrent influence of Judaism, is their propensity to call their Babylonian Talmud, this repugnant religious replacement for Yahweh's teaching and guidance, the Torah. By doing so, many Jews have come to the false belief that it is the Torah which is making them so obnoxious when it's their avoidance of Yahweh's instructions and the imposition of their own edicts that make the religious smell and appear as dung. While it is among the most ridiculous religious myths foisted upon the gullible, the Haredim nonetheless believe that two distinct sets of laws were given to the Israelites during the time of Moses. With no evidence of any kind to support their view, and with every fact to the contrary, they believe that the oral Torah was inspired by God to 574 explain the written law, even though the oral Torah is nothing more than a compilation of arguments written by rabbis in Babylon circa 350 to 500 CE and updated thereafter as the rabbis were inspired to impose themselves as gods. For the Haredim, Jewish law, known as halakha, meaning the walk, is considered divinely inspired even though every word is ascribed to one of a gadowl of rabbis, most of whom are revered above the Almighty. However, based on this prophetic declaration, and countless more like it, Yahweh strongly disagrees. God has affirmed that Jews have abandoned His Torah and that they do not walk in it. The reason is obvious: religious Jews have replaced Yahweh's Torah with their laws. They are as a result. The realization that the instigators and adherents of religion almost always refer to their God as the Lord is indicting. And this is especially condemning of Judaism, which not only systematically removed all references to Yahweh's name but went so far as to replace Yahweh with the Lord. But let us not forget Christianity, which robbed doubt to create Jesus. This is especially concerning because Baal, the Lord, is Satan's title. It reveals the adversary's ambition, which is to lord over, control, possess, and own human souls. Nicely done, rabbis. Don't forget to collect your star on the way to hell. Simon Bar Kokhba is handing them out courtesy of Rabbi Akiba. As a result of promoting the Talmud, New Testament, and Quran, at the expense of the Torah, God's actual 575 testimony is known to very few people. And when it is shared, boldly and bluntly, as it is in this introduction to God, the message is so foreign, so inconsistent with religious teaching, most people reject it out of hand. And that is what this next passage reveals. And it shall come to exist, higher, there will be a time, when indeed, you will report this, nagad hazeh, warn and advise, inform, and tell, to the people, related individuals and family, accompanied by, with all of these words, shel dabarim ha'aleh, each of these particular statements, and, they ask you, amar elota, they respond, question, and say to you and to God. Over what? Almar, has Yahowah, spoken against us, Dabar alanaknu, with, all of, shel, this great, gadowl hajoth, this large quantity of significant degree of misfortune and misery, hara, disaster and destruction, calamity and suffering. And what is our offense, wama chata nekbu? How have we missed the way, forfeited our rights, and incurred such guilt, such that we are to blame for having missed the way, asher chata, which is our sin, and where did we go wrong, concerning, la, 2, Yahowah, our God, Yahowah Elohim anakhu. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 16:10. This could have been reported of Jews any time from when Yirma'yah scribed these words until today. The only thing that changes is who is delivering the message religious Jews have never wanted to hear. Great misfortune and misery have been the people's constant companions. From being slaves in Miraim, Assyria, and Babylon, and being enslaved by the Greeks, Romans, Roman Catholics, Muslims, and Nazis, it's been a long and horrific ordeal. 576. What is particularly interesting here, is that the concluding question was phrased to reveal that Yah recognizes that religious individuals believe their faith is placed in him, even though it is not. They believe what their pastor, imam, rabbi, and priest have told them. So, when things don't turn out well, when they are confronted with the truth, they are in a quandary. They can't process the fact that their religion is in conflict with God's testimony. They don't have the capacity to recognize that their beliefs have led them astray and that, as a result, their religion cannot save them from their plight. And even if you tell them where they have gone wrong, as God is going to do in the next statement, the truth doesn't impress the faithful. The religious are wholly impervious to it, even when the condemning testimony is from the very God with whom they are convinced they are associating. This is true with every religious individual when initially confronted by prophet of doom, questioning Paul, or Yada Yahowah. Let's be clear, since Yahowah has been so with us. The object of God's ayah is Judaism. And then, you shall answer them, wa amar elhem, you shall respond for the Almighty and declare to them, this is because, Alasha, your fathers, atem, abandoned and rejected, azab, denied and forsook, kal perfect, me, etheni, accompanying me, declares, naum, Yahowah, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah, our elohy, God as directed in His Towrah, teaching regarding His hayah, existence, and our shalom, restoration, and they have gone, waholok, following after, achah, other, acre, additional, gods. Elohim? They have engaged to serve them, wa badhem, and they have bowed down and worshipped them, wa shakar lahem. 577. And with regard to me, wa etheni, they have abandoned their former association with and relinquished, azab, they have departed from, kal perfect, my Torah, teaching and guidance, wa eth Torah any, my instructions and directions. They have not actually observed or considered it for some time, lo shamar, and they have not genuinely examined, explored, or evaluated it for a while, kal perfect. Yirma'yah 16:11. Their forefathers who abandoned Yahowah and His Towrah are venerated under the names Hillel the Elder, the gadowl, Great One, born in Babylon and moved to Judah, Rabbi Ibba ben Yosef, the father of Holorka, Judah, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, the Rashbi, Judah, Judah Hanasi, the Prince of Judah, Ravashi, the end of Horeh, teaching, the first to compile the Babylonian Talmud, Babylon, Rabbi Ravina II, redactor of the Talmud, Babylon, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, the Rambam or Maimonides, Spain and Egypt, Rabbi Sholmo Yitzchaki, the Rashi, France, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, the Rambam, Spain, Rabbi Yaakov ben Asher, the Baal HaTarim, Germany and Spain, Rabbi Yosef Karo, the Ha-Mekabah and Maran, Spain, and Rabbi Israel ben Eliezer, the Baal Shem Tov, Ukraine, but there are 1,000 more who could be added to this deplorable list. And their inclusion is based upon the same ploy which underlies other religions. God inspired men to contradict him. As the star of this show, perhaps we should include Rabbi Paul of New Testament infamy. No matter how long the list, you will not find a single man among them who knew Yahowah or valued his Torah, guidance above his own. As a result, their rotting bones will be among those on display and turned to dung in year 6000 year, and that will be the least of their problems. 578. Alas, this is a blanket indictment. And you, yourselves, are as bad, equally disturbing and displeasing, mentally deranged and miserable, wa atem ra, you are disagreeable, miserable, distressing, wicked, morally corrupt, engaging in even more than, la men, doing far worse than, your fathers, atem. And all of you should also be aware, wahi neota, so you should notice, everyone, ish, is walking in halakha, holok, is going about, following after, achah, the stubbornness and adversarial nature, sha'eryth, the unwillingness to change, from shara, the twisted and rival nature, of his evil and wicked judgment and errant inclinations, leib hara, his own improper ambitions, deplorable attitudes, and immoral emotional responses, thereby failing to listen to me, la bilti shama el eni. Therefore no longer hearing me. Yirma'yah 16:12. Yes, I know, and I can assure you so does God, that Jews comprise a scant 0.2% of the world's 8 billion humans, and Judaism is practiced by only 0.08% of people. So, if you are wondering why all of the fuss, especially since there are a lot of other misguided souls, then you haven't been listening. For better or worse, and there has been far more of the latter, Jacob's descendants were chosen by God. He is speaking to them and through them. And right now, and generally for the past 3,000 years, he is none too pleased. And it seems to be mutual? Yahowah hates Judaism as much as the Haredi, Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform hate Yahowah? So, who do you suppose is going to prevail? Okay, that question was too easy, so what about this one? Why do the Haredi spend every waking hour annoying the God they claim to be religiously obeying? Because that is clearly the case. And why, when one of their own reveals 579 that they are annoying Yahowah by failing to observe his Torah and by not listening to him, preoccupied instead marching to the beat of their halakha, do they slather themselves in ever more excrement? Why not toss aside the Talmud, Mishnah, Gemara, and Zohar and observe the Torah, Nabi, wa Mizmowr? It is a fair question. But alas, clueless as to who Yahowah is, what he is offering, and what he expects in return, the religious find it more expedient to slander the messenger. Better me than God, I suppose. So I will cast you all out, watoleth atem, and I will remove you, hurling you far away, from being upon, minal, this land, ha-eres ha-joth, land, toward, al, the realm, ha-eres, the place which, Asher, neither you nor your fathers have known or currently acknowledge, lo yada atem wa abatem. And there, wa sham, you will serve, abad, work on behalf of and worship, these other gods, eth elohy maker, in the heat and in the darkness, yamam wa layla. Because as a result of the relationship, Asher, I will not provide, lo Nathan, I will not give, allow, or produce, any favors or compassion, shonina, any mercy, pity, or undue consideration, for you, la atem, on your behalf. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 16:13. Being cast out of the land is bad since Yisrael is Yahowah's home on earth. But it is where these wayward souls are headed that is particularly grim, Sheol, hell. It is a place that religious Jews deny to this day, one that they never acknowledge. And yet, it is in Sheol, the place of eternal separation, that their souls will endure the darkness and heat of a black hole, filled with the men and demons who conceived the false gods they served. 580 According to what Yahowah etched at the conclusion of the second of 3 statements on the first of 2 tablets, after asking us not to be religious, he stated that his mercy would be offered to the thousands who observe his instructions. Those who ignore his Torah, Varith, and Mikra, who don't listen to his word, will not receive any of the benefits or favors provided or contained therein. This known, at the time this message was initially recited to Yahweh, sometime between his call in 626 BCE and the capture of Yerushalayim by the Babylonians in 586 BCE, they were headed to the birthplace of organized religion in Babel. It is the place their Talmud was compiled and the basis of the word from which Bible derives its name. So first and foremost, wa rishon, I will require total and complete restitution, shalem, 2 times over, mishneh, for their religious corruptions, a1 hem, and for them being wrong and missing the way, wa chatahem. Over and above this, al, they polluted and profaned, chalhem, my land, eth eres eni, filling my property and intended inheritance, mala eth nakla eni, with their abhorrent and detestable senselessness, bar nabal hem, with the vile and idolatrous filth of their foolishness and disgusting interest in the carcasses of those they stupidly venerate, and their repulsive religion, wa tower hem, along with their egregious practices, and abominable customs. Yirma'yah 16:18. When the religion defining a people is called abhorrent, detestable, and senseless, vile filth and foolish, stupid, repulsive, egregious, and abominable by God, Jerusalem, you have a problem. You can fix a lot of things, 581, but you just can't fix stupid. And that is God's assessment of Judaism. At this point, as is often the case with Yahowah's prophets, Yirma'yah offered his assessment of what he had witnessed following this pronouncement. It certainly brightens the mood. Yahowah, Yahowah, my source of strength and power, Oz Eni, and my protector, Wa Mauz Eni, my safe place, Wa Manauz Eni, in the day of trouble, Bar Yaum Zara, to you the Gawim, Gentiles, El Otter Gawim, will come, Bo, from the ends of the earth, Minaphes Eres. And they will say, Wa Ma, surely, Ak, we inherited, Nakal, our fathers, Abianak knew, lies, their misleading beliefs and deceptive claims, sheker, a worthless and futile religion, hebel, empty and vain promises and false hope, in which there is no benefit or value, wain barhem yal. Yirma'yah 16:19. How is it, why is it, that a man, Adam, can make for himself, asah gods, Elohim? These are not gods, wahem lo Elohim. Yirma'yah 16:20. Therefore, behold, as a result, right here and now, la kenhine, based upon this occurrence and the path they have followed to this place, Baha Palm Ha Joth, based upon where they are now standing and how they conducted their lives to arrive here, I will help them become aware of this, any Yadahem, I will reveal this to them and help them discover this, hyphal participle, God is facilitating this understanding in a highly demonstrable way, because I will consistently and continually encourage them to understand and appreciate, becoming ever more familiar with, Yadahem as I will help them become ever more aware of, hyphal imperfect, my hand and influence, Yod any, and with my means to strengthen and empower, YF 582 Gabura any, my means to achieve and gain greater capabilities. Then, they shall know, Yada, that my name, Ky Shem any, is Yahowah, Yahowah. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 16:21. It is not unexpected. We have heard this before from Yahowah's prophets. Jews will not be alone during the fulfillment of Yom Kippurim. There will be as many, if not more, Goim. God has simply run out of time and patience with his people. And so, he is reaching out to others, as is his prerogative. He is offering the Goim the same thing he afforded his own, the opportunity to Yada, to know and understand. All the while, the first to hear this message, just like the religious have done throughout the ages, rather than accept God's testimony as valid, resorted to ad hominem arguments. They attacked Yahowah's messenger. And nothing has changed for religious Jews, Christians, Muslims, and progressives today. Then, they said, amar, let's go pursue a path of our choosing, holok, we can walk in whatever direction we want, kal imperative. So, let us plot against, chase habal, let's scheme up an account against, and of our own accord, invent a plan to impute judgment upon, kal cohortative, Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, from room, to rise and stand up and Yahowah. Surely, the Torah, teaching, instruction, guidance, and direction, will not be ruined by or wasted because of, nor is it torn asunder through, lower bad men, will not be lost on, destroyed through, or blotted out, ceasing to exist as a result of, kal imperfect, the priest, Kohen, minister, cleric, and religious individual, or, the advice and counsel, tsaba, the 583 plans and arguments, even the commentary, of, men, the sages, chakam, the shrewd, learned, and wise, even, by the word, dabar, the message and statements, of those who claim to speak through inspiration, nabi, of the prophets who proclaim the message of their God. It's our decision to go where we choose, holok, so let's walk toward halakha, kal imperative, and therefore, strike back and destroy him, nakahu, we should smite and beat him, wound and ruin him, hyphal imperfect, with the tongue, bar lashon, with spoken language. We choose never to pay attention to or be made to respond to, akasabel, we will not listen because we opt to consistently reject, hyphal imperfect cohortative, any of, shirl, his words, dabarim hu, his statements and message. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 18:18. The path of their choosing is known as holokah, and its rules were imposed by rabbis. It has led them away from Yahowah and to the Roman invasions, Roman Catholic abuse, the diaspora, and the Holocaust. Surely, the advice and counsel of the rabbinic sages did not prevail. Methinks they would have been better off listening to Yahowah and his prophets. Seriously, what could possibly be gained by trying to discredit Yirma'yah? Yashar was inspired by the same God to convey the same message. So were Moses, Yahusha, Shamuel, Daud, Hosea, Eliah, Zechariah, and Malachi. Are they all to be condemned? Then what? Engaging in a war of words with God is a losing battle. If you think that you are better, smarter, and more whatever, create a universe, conceive life forms, and inspire your own set of instructions for the beneficiaries of your 584 magnificence to follow. Ignore, reward, or torment them as you see fit. Yahowah spoke with and through Yirma'yah, Jeremiah for 40 years. He had a lot to say, and much of it was in rebuke of the religious faith of his people. So now we pick up the story in the 26th chapter. At the beginning, Rishith, of the reign, Mamlek youth, of Yehoiakim, Yah takes a stand, the son, Ben, of Yoshia, Yah supports, the king Melech of Yahweh, Yahweh, beloved of Yah and related to Yah, this, the word, Hadabar Hazeh, from and according to, Mineth, Yahowah, Yahowah, our Elohy, God as directed in His Towrah, teaching regarding His Yah, existence and our Shalom, restoration, came, higher, to be declared, la amar. Yirma'yah 26:1. And this is what, Yahowah, had to say, amar, stand, amod, be present and upright, in, bar, the courtyard, chatzah, in the enclosure and blow the trumpet, of the house, Baith, home and family, of Yahowah, as directed in His Towrah, teaching regarding His higher, existence. Speak, wadabar, communicate, to all of the inhabitants, al-sha'eryth, of Yahweh, beloved of Yah and related to Yah, who come, habo, who arrive and enter, to, la, either make an intensely important announcement or to bow down in worship, shor or shakar, to vividly explain and dramatically demonstrate their ongoing intentions or, alternatively, prostrate themselves, hit pale infinitive, consistently and intensely making their declaration on their own initiative. 585 No longer influenced by religion or politics, written, Hishtakoth, before the home and family of Yahowah, Baith Yahowah, with, all of the words, Shel Hadaberim, which, to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, Asher, I have instructed you, Zawa Atah, I have provided these directions, to speak, La Dabar, to them, Elhem. You should not subtract, Algara, you should not omit, a word, Dabar. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 26:2. The primary definition of chore is to make an announcement, and to explain one's intent. These ideas were expanded in this case because chore was conveyed in the hitpail stem and infinitive form. The hitpail means that those who had come to the house of Yahowah to make this pronouncement were no longer subject to religious or political influences and were acting solely on their own initiative. The infinitive indicates that their declaration was intensely felt, and that it spoke of an ongoing commitment. This definition is in harmony with what follows because the attendees will be listening to a comprehensive presentation of Yirma'yah. For them to proceed and be comfortable in God's presence, their declarations will need to be consistent with the prophet's revelation. The idea of making a pronouncement is also consistent with the realization that they were coming to the Baith, home and family of God. Also, in support of this, the primary definition of chore, this verb serves as the basis of chore's name. Adam's wife never bowed down or worshipped anyone, but there is no doubt that she made an impassioned declaration, and she was held accountable for what she said. There are other contexts, however, in which chore can be translated by its secondary definition, which is to bow down, prostrating oneself in worship. This is 586 something Yahowah never asks of us because His intent is to create a loving, mutually supportive family, and He rails against all forms of religious worship. However, mankind has long been beguiled into bowing down and worshipping the gods men have created as well as the men who have claimed to be gods. With both definitions in mind, citing Yahowah's words before those who have come will serve to affirm the thinking of those who belong and cull those from the gathering who are not welcome in God's home. After all, with the hitpail stem guiding our translation of chore, those who are coming to worship are potentially redeemable because they have taken the necessary first step, which is to walk away from political and religious influences. They could be like most of us are as we are emerging from the shadow of religion and politics into the light of Yah. It takes a while for us to jettison so much of our prior conditioning. Affirming this possibility, Yuli, the very next word Yahowah spoke to Yirma'yah, conveys the expectancy of a positive outcome. With Yuli, the listener is being given the option of choosing to engage in a new adventure. And that is a long way from where we have been with blanket condemnations without hope of resolution. Maybe, even likely, as the first step in a new adventure, Yuli, there is a very good chance, even the probability their preference will be that, they will actually and consistently listen, Shama, they will continue to genuinely hear what is said, Kal imperfect, and change, be transformed, and return, Washub, and stop going in the wrong direction, turn around, and alter their attitude and thinking so that they can be restored, each individually, each, as a person, from, Nin, his way, Derek Hugh, his path. Of having associated with misleading shepherds, hara, of having personal advisors and fellow countrymen, who are ruinous guides. 587 Then, Wah, at that moment, I will be able to provide encouragement, express sympathy, provide comfort, and relent from, Nachum, I will console them, express compassion, and refrain from, Nifl perfect, the subject, God, carries out and receives the benefits associated with providing comfort and encouragement at this moment in time, moving in the direction of, the unfortunate circumstances, hara, the anxious and troubling situation, which, Asher, Anki, had considered and was on the verge of, Chasehab. Based upon an accurate accounting and a thoughtful, just, and rational response have considered, acting upon, la asah, of engaging and doing, regarding them, la hem, because of, min, the presence, pana, of the worthless, immoral, and improper practices of their countrymen, ro amal hem, their regrettable acts, misguided endeavors, and impoverished deeds. In addition to the inappropriate verbal expressions of those with whom they associated and who misled them. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 26:3. While these are Yahweh's words, they encapsulate the essence of Yada Yahowah, maybe, even likely, as the first step in a new adventure, there is a very good chance, even the probability, their preference will be that, usually, they will actually and consistently listen, hear what is said, shama, and change, be transformed, and return so that they can be restored, washub, each individually, each, from, min, his way, derek hugh, of having associated with misleading shepherds, hara. When we do as Yahweh has asked, stand up and be accountable in his presence, sounding the trumpet in the courtyard of his home, accurately conveying the words he revealed through his prophets, we can transform lives and bring God's people home, extracting souls from the carnage that awaits the religious. Because this is possible, 588 even probable, we proceed to follow the instructions of our God. Yahweh wants a reunion with his people, not their annihilation, and so the more individuals we can convince to change the better for everyone involved. We have all gone down the wrong path. We have all done many things which were inappropriate, even harmful to ourselves and others. But all God asks is that we listen to him and respond accordingly, which is to turn around and return to him. If we do, he will not only embrace us, and encourage us, even comfort us, our prior practices will be forgotten, just as their consequence will be resolved. Stop being religious and engage in a relationship with God, and everything you have done will be forgiven. That is the message being communicated here. And should you accept this proposition, then not only is this the proper way to respond, you now know what will happen if you choose not to listen. And so, you should say, amar to them, elhem, now this is what, Yahweh, Yahowah, our elohy, God has directed in his Torah, teaching regarding his existence and our shalom, restoration, says, amar, if, as a condition, you do not listen to me, lo shama el-eni, you do not care to hear what I have to say, and approach by, walking, holok, in, my Torah, guidance, Torah my instructions and directions, which, asher, I have given to you, placing before your presence, Nathan la pana atem. I have bestowed before you and through you, Yirma'yah 26:4, while listening, la shama, closely to, the words, dabarim, of my associates, ebed my co-workers and servants, the prophets, nabi, those who speak for God, whom, to reveal the proper path, asher, I have sent to you, anki shalak el atem, I have dispatched to reach out to you, repeatedly, washakem, over and over again. Shouldering the burden by 589, doing so early and often, reaching out, washalak, but to whom you have not listened, lo shama, Yirma'yah 26:5, then, I will cause, Nathan, I will therefore appoint, that which is associated with this family, atah beth hazeh, to be as, to resemble, Shiloh, and this city, Joth, and now addressing this city, I will allow to, Nathan, I will appoint, to be slighted and dishonored, appearing cursed, la klala, to be vilified and disparaged, from kalal, to be trivialized and diminished in influence, thereby slighted and depreciated, by all of, la shirl, the Gentiles, Gawim, the non-Israelites, of the region, ha'eres, of the land and earth. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 26:6. I have never had any luck with ultimatums, and although Yahweh's is appropriate, he has not done much better. His proposition was straightforward, listen to me and to my prophets and be guided by my Torah, or I will allow your city to be dishonored by foreigners. As for Shiloh, it had a turbulent, and diverse history. On the positive side, Yasha ben Nun, Joshua, Moses' successor, chose Shiloh as his headquarters. He erected a tabernacle to Yahweh here, some 25-mile walk north of what would become Yerushalayim, Jerusalem. Shiloh was the temporary home of the Ark of the Covenant, Yasha 18:1 and 1 Shamuel 1:24, 4:3-4. It is also where Yahweh appeared to Shamuel, he listens to God, 1 Shamuel 3:21. On the negative side of the equation, Shiloh was home to a fertility cult and served as a base for military operations. Men from the tribe of Benjamin abducted women in Shiloh, albeit only those who danced 590 for them, and Samuel, in 1 Samuel 2:22, excoriated the town for having promoted prostitution. Shiloh was destroyed by the Philistines around 1050 BCE, becoming completely uninhabited. And it was likely near Shiloh in Ebenezer that Israel's enemy confiscated the Ark of the Covenant, something alluded to in 1 Samuel 4 and in Psalm 78. Jeremiah spoke very harshly about the religious customs that had been practiced in Shiloh, denouncing it in 7:12-14 and again in 26:6-9. It is interesting to note that Yahowah never reveals how Shiloh was destroyed. The archaeological evidence revealed from excavations conducted during the 1920s points to a time around 1000 BCE, which was just prior to the lifetime of David and his battles with the Philistines. Therefore, Shiloh was a thriving community, one which benefited from God's personal presence, when Yahowah's Ark of the Covenant and Tabernacle were there, but it became deserted, desolate, and lifeless the moment they were removed. And that is the lesson associated with Shiloh. With Yerushalayim, however, the story is even more complicated. While it is, as the name implies, the source of reconciliation, and thus the place where God became approachable, it is also the place where man is estranged from God and, thus, where God recedes from humankind. You see, Yahowah's Torah details the way to reconciliation, presenting a 7-day journey which begins and ends in Yerushalayim. Even Yahowah's covenant, the lone means to engage in a relationship with God, was affirmed in Yerushalayim on Mount Moriah. So as a result, a person's choice to embrace or shun this covenant and way determines their fate. Those who choose in favor of God, who listen to Him, whose steps are guided by His Torah, are embraced. But those who look to Jerusalem, to their church, mosque, or temple, with the intent of being religious, will be shunned. Their souls will 591 klala, recede from God, as they will be seen as insignificant to God. As a result of religion, such souls are klala, diminished to nothingness, ceasing to exist. And so, the priests, Kohen, the religious ministers and political advisors, and the prophets, Nabi, those claimed to be inspired by God, in addition to all of the people, Am, and the entire nation, heard, Shama, listened to and received the message from, Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, speaking these words, Debar dabarim ha'oleh, communicating this, the Almighty's message, in the house, Baith, in the home, of Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah. Our elohy, God as directed in His Torah, teaching regarding His existence and our shalom, restoration. Yirma'yah 26:7. And then, it came to be, just as, Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, was finishing, kala, concluding, speaking the word, la debar, including everything, which, for the benefit of the relationship, asher, Yahowah, an accurate presentation of the name of Eloah, God as guided by His Torah, instructions regarding His existence, instructed, zawa, directed, to speak, el debar, to all of, el the people, am, then, the religious ministers and political advisors, Kohen. The priests, and those who had claimed to have been inspired by God, Nabi, the prophets, in addition to all of, the people, seized and arrested him, tafas grabbed hold of him and detained him. They said, amar, they demanded, you must be put to death and die, mogth, you must be killed and destroyed. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 26:8. 592 Catholics and Muslims have a long history of killing those who have dared to hold them accountable by citing God's word. It is lethal to them, so they dispatch it by destroying those who convey it. Even today, if I were to stand in the foyer of any church, mosque, or temple, and read Jeremiah out loud, I would be silenced and slandered. Those who claim to serve God, those who pretend to speak for Him, actually hate what Yahowah has to say. Rather than listen, they will do everything in their power to mute His messengers. Way back in the concluding chapter of the initial volume of this Introduction to God, we considered Yirma'yah's revelation regarding the renewal and reaffirmation of Yahowah's covenant. In that this passage revolves around the Torah, let's review it again. After all, it is now obvious that Yahowah's relationship with Yisrael and Yahweh was shattered as a result of religious individuals walking away from His Torah in deference to their Talmud. So, for reconciliation to occur, for the covenant to prevail, something dramatic has to occur. One of the most powerful announcements ever conveyed by God begins by focusing our attention, not on a church, but instead on the chosen people. And yet, as the only statement within the prophets addressing a Berith Jadash, renewed covenant, it is both essential and lethal to Christianity. Without it, there is no basis for a New Testament. With it, the foundational claims of the New Testament are destroyed, completely and irrevocably obliterated. And without the New Testament, there is no Bible. 593 Describing the events which will transpire upon Yahowah's return, the prophet proclaims, "Behold, Hine, look up and pay attention, a time is coming, Yamim Bo, days are approaching, Yahowah, Yahowah, God's name transliterated as directed by His Towrah, instructions on His higher existence and His role in our Shalem, reconciliation as Elohy, Almighty God, reveals in advance of it occurring, Naum, prophetically declares, when I will enter into and cut with, karat, when I will establish through separation a set-apart agreement on behalf of, the house of Yisrael, Beit Yisrael, the home of those who engage and endure with God, and with, the family of Yahweh, Beit Yahweh, the household of those beloved by Yah, a restoring and renewing, Shadash, a repaired and reaffirming, from Shadash, to renew and repair, to restore and reaffirm, covenant, berith, family-oriented relationship. Yirma'yah, Yah lifts me up and raises me, Jeremiah 31:31. The covenant is being restored on behalf of the people with whom it was made. We have returned to where it all began, with Abraham fathering Yitzchak, who begat Yaakov, who bore the name Yisrael and conceived Yahweh. There is no accommodation here for replacement theology, for Gentiles replacing Yahweh, for a church being substituted for Yisrael, or for a New Testament. The part of this statement which Christians, desperate to justify their New Testament, miss is that the renewal and restoration of the berith, covenant isn't with Gentiles or their church but, instead, with Yahweh and Yisrael. This promise, therefore, cannot apply to Christians or Christianity. It's game over. 594. As a result, the only question worth debating in this passage is whether Chadash should be translated as new or renewed, as both are etymologically acceptable. Is God going to renew and restore, reaffirm and repair the covenant presented in the Torah with Yisrael and Yahweh, or is He going to scrap the Torah's definition of this relationship and create an entirely new agreement? To put this question to rest, you should know that the primary meaning of Chadash is to renew, to restore, to repair, and to reaffirm. Of the 10 times the verb appears in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, the KJV translates it renew in 1 Samuel 11:14, renewed in 2 Chronicles 15:8, to repair in 2 Chronicles 24:4, to repair in 2 Chronicles 24:12, renewest in Job 10:17, renew in Psalms 51:10, renewed in Psalms 103:5, again as renewest in Psalms 104:30, repair in Isaiah 61:4, and renew in Lamentations 5:21. Please be aware that these verse numbers are not only arbitrary, they differ by publication, especially between the KJV and JPS. While this rendering of the 31st verse of Yirma'yah is valid, it isn't necessarily the conclusion you would come to if you casually looked up Chadash in your favorite lexicon. Strong's, for example, presents H2319 Chadash as new, and then they claim that it was translated as new 48 times, in the King James Version for which their concordance was created. But look closely. The initial Strong's entry regarding this word reveals that it is from H2318 Shadash, which they define as to renew, to make anew, and to repair. But that is misleading. It is actually the same word, as is H2320 Hadesh, which is translated as month 154 times according to Strong's. Therefore, the same 3 letters can be used to convey a verb, an adjective, and a noun, something which is quite common in Hebrew, as well as most ancient languages. 595 This known, in Hebrew, like most all languages, verbs define words related to them. Because they are active, they shape the meaning of the nouns, adjectives, and adverbs which are rooted in them. For example, if you are diligent in your study, you will discover that the roots of many nouns, adjectives, and adverbs are verbs. So, in this particular case, with the verbal root obvious and irrefutable, translating Chadash should have been easy. The definitions to renew, to repair, to restore, and to reaffirm should have prevailed. That is not to say, however, that the adjective, Chadash, cannot be translated as new. It can be when the context dictates. It only means that if there are 2 equally viable options, as there are in Yirma'yah, Jeremiah 31:31, we should choose the form which is consistent with the verbal root. And that becomes especially important if the other option would lead to the implication of us having God contradicting Himself. These things known, the next line seems to suggest that there will be a new covenant, one different than the one whose terms and conditions were delineated in the Torah. But is this even possible? Could God do such a thing without seriously contradicting other statements He has made and, in so doing, rendering Himself capricious and His word unreliable? It will differ somewhat from, Lokar, it won't be exactly like, the covenant, Haberith, the family-oriented relationship agreement, which, to reveal the way to the benefits of the relationship, asah, that provide directions showing the steps to walk which are correct and give meaning to those who are properly led and guided, I entered into, karat, I established by setting apart when I cut, with their fathers, atem, on the day, during the time, I firmly took them by the hand and, with overwhelming intent, overpowered the situation, chazak eni bar yod, I showed an intense 596 resolve and was inflexible in my influence over them, even overpowering them due to the urgent need for them to prevail, to bring them out, la yatsamin, to draw them out and bring them close. Descending and extending myself to serve by removing them from, of the realm of the crucibles of oppression, eres miraim, the place of subjugation associated with religious coercion and political tyranny, the land of military domination and economic cruelty, from a compound of my, to question and zar, troubling and adversarial situations. Yirma'yah, Yah lifts me up and raises me, Jeremiah 31:32. There was an urgency then to liberate the Hebrew slaves who knew nothing of Yah. Having no knowledge of the Torah or its covenant, having just been introduced to Pesach and Matzah, the children of Israel were not yet equipped to make an informed decision. So, to bring them home, Yahowah had to overpower the situation and intervene, doing so with overwhelming conviction. By contrast, on this day of its renewal, Yahowah's children are here because they know him and because they are all Torah observant. They have chosen to come home by engaging in the covenant and by attending the mikveh. They did not come kicking and screaming but of their own free will. This time, rather than leaving Miraim, they have walked away from Babylon. They are no longer confounded or confused. And they are no longer estranged. Relationally, they had broken, ashahem para'eth, they sought to nullify that relationship, by thwarting its intent and by disassociating from the correct path, thereby revoking the benefits of, my covenant, berith eni, my family-oriented relationship agreement, although we were married, wa'anoki baal barhem, even though we were to be husband and wife, even leader 597 and follower, Yahowah, reveals through this prophet, Naum. Yirma'yah, respect and revere Yah, Jeremiah 31:32. The covenant is reciprocal, which is why it is called a relationship agreement. God has consistently honored his commitments, and he will continue to do so. This is the reason he is restoring his relationship with his people. However, it has been a rocky road since Yaakov. And now in the wake of Rabbinic Judaism, 4 of the 5 conditions of the covenant are routinely nullified and revoked. Christians are 0 for 5. And Muslims do not even know there is one. The problems have been and continue to be ignorance, and avoidance of the Torah. But without the Torah, there is no access to the covenant. With it, Jews and Christians are in breach. The following statement still applies to Yisrael and Yahudah. They alone broke the berith. Christians have never been part of it. For this reason, this is, Joth, specifically, the covenant, berith, the family-oriented relationship agreement, which, to enjoy the benefits of the relationship, asah, I will cut, karat, I will create through separation, making and establishing, with on behalf of, the house of Yisrael, Beit Yisrael, the home of those who engage and endure with God, after that and then without hesitation, achahem, at a much later period and in a different time, in the latter days without equivocation or delay.Prophetically declares, Naum, announces in advance of it occurring, Yahowah, God's personal name pronounced as guided by his Torah, instructions. I will provide, placing, Nathan, I will give and ascribe, producing, offering, and bestowing, my Torah, guidance, Torah eni, with my teaching, instructions, and directions, within them, Barkirebhem, 598 inside of them, such that it is part of their inner person, part of their thought process, affecting their conscience, and animating their lives. And integrated into their ability to make decisions, while labhem, and upon their inclinations and disposition, their character and thinking, their hearts and minds, I will write it, katab high, I will inscribe and engrave it. I will be, wahaya, I will exist as, their God, lahem la Elohim, drawing near them and approaching them as a ram shepherding his sheep, and they shall be my family, wahem haya la eni laam, and they will always exist near me as my people. Yirma'yah, Yah teaches and guides, Jeremiah 31:33. Yahudah is not mentioned a second time because, upon Yahowah's return, Yisrael will be reunited such that they are part of the collective whole. And while the restoration of Yisrael is in direct conflict with the derogatory statements made in opposition to Israel in the New Testament, that's not the worst of Christianity's problems. Up to this point, Yahowah's Torah has been available to us but not integrated into us. We have had the option to take it or leave it, to observe it and reflect upon it, or ignore it. But now, on Yom Kippurim in year 6000 year, it is being integrated into the fabric of our lives. This is great news, even for those of us who are wholly devoted to understanding and sharing it. Not only will our knowledge increase exponentially, but in addition, much of what Yahowah is going to share about this day will be germane to navigating through the 6th and 7th dimensions. Further, There is an enormous difference between reading the Torah in Hebrew, while contemplating its intent in English in a world polluted by misconceptions, versus having it incorporated into our persona. Moreover, 599 we will become so fluent in Hebrew that we will be comfortable conversing with God. While you may want the Torah integrated now rather than later, this would not be appropriate. We are living in a time of discovery, where we can capitalize upon what we have been given to embark on the adventure of a lifetime. Today, we have the opportunity to work with God to do something that will endure the test of time. We can encourage others to closely examine and carefully consider Yahweh's Torah such that they receive the covenant's benefits. We can contribute to the size and quality of God's family while Yahweh enhances our lives. On this day in the summer day of 2023, as has been the case for 22 years, we are doing our utmost to encourage all who are interested, especially Yisrael and Yahweh, to Yada Yahowah, become familiar with, come to know, and understand Yahweh. We have done so by translating Yahweh's Torah instructions while contemplating the implications of his guidance. Our mission will soon be obsolete. Once Yahweh's family has returned to the fold, and once Yahweh has written a copy of his Torah inside of us, integrating his teaching into our lives, everyone will know what we have come to realize, and more, far more than we could comprehend at this moment. For us, it will be a time of celebration, not only because Yahweh appreciates our involvement in calling Yisrael and Yahweh home, but also because our lives will be similarly enriched and enlightened on this day. Yahweh incorporating his Torah into his people's lives means that he did not intend for anyone to replace it in favor of a Talmud, New Testament, or Quran. Yahweh is reaffirming his commitment to his people, his Torah, and his covenant. And they are mutually inclusive. You cannot have one without the others. 600 No longer shall anyone impart information or teach, while lo lamed od, anyone within their community, isheth their companions, friends, and errant countrymen, or, others of their kin, isheth by saying, la amar, approaching to declare, choose of your own accord to know Yahweh, Yada Yahowah, decide to recognize and acknowledge Yah, and show desire to become familiar with and understand Yahweh. Because, truthfully and by contrast, at this time, everyone will know me, hem Yada any, all of them, without exception, will actually be aware of and genuinely acknowledge me, from the youngest, la min katan hem, and up to the enduring witness of the oldest, wide gadowl hem, prophetically reveals, Naum, Yahowah, Yahweh. Yirma'yah, Yah lifts me up and raises me, Jeremiah 31:34. Many of the fortunate souls experiencing this marvelous moment will be spiritual infants, having just responded to Yahweh's call to return and be restored. And yet, with Yahweh's Torah, guidance, scribed within them, they will recognize and acknowledge their Father, which is more than can be said for the Haredim. Now unless Yahweh told us that he was going to revoke his original plan, and unless he told us that he would create a whole new plan in its place, those who rely on the religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are in serious trouble. Unless God revealed a strategy by which he was going to annul his Torah, and separate us from its instructions and directions, these religions represent unreliable paths, ultimately leading to the death and destruction of the souls who have placed their faith in them. In Jeremiah 31, rather than change his covenant so that the Torah no longer provides the proper guidance on precisely how to participate in it, in effect cancelling and terminating its provisions, Yahweh has promised the 601 exact opposite, to make the covenant and the Torah inseparable. And so now, this is what, Yahweh, written as directed by his Torah, teaching, the God of the spiritual messengers, elohy tsaba, the God of Yisra'el, elohy Yisrael, said, amar, for what reason why are you all, atem, engaging in, asah, acting upon, doing, and celebrating, that which is tremendously harmful, gadowl, that which is enormously incapacitating, greatly troubling, overwhelmingly misleading, and increasingly disastrous, to your souls, la nepesh atem. For your consciousness, your ability to be observant and responsive and live, so as for you to cut off, la karat la atem, so that you sever, uproot, vanish, and cast away, ceasing to exist, men, women, isha, young people, owl, boys and girls, and even infants, yanak, those who are still nursing, from being among, mintalk, Yahweh, the beloved of Yah who are related to Yahweh, the land of Judah and being a Jew. So that, there will not be even a remnant of you, bilthi la sha'eryth, absolutely no residue nor remains left alive nor surviving of you, spared and remaining, atah, left or preserved. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 44:7. If I may paraphrase, Jews, why are you committing spiritual suicide? Yahweh is telling the preponderance of his people that their religious and political behavior has been tremendously harmful to their souls. According to God, it isn't good to be part of the majority, to go along with the flow, to be part of the crowd, or to seek to be popular. In fact, the consequence is to be cut off and to be cast away, 602 ceasing to exist. Such people will be uprooted and, thus, severed and separated from Yahweh to the point that nothing of them will remain. This is one of those occasions where Yahweh is being used to both depict a place and to describe the aspirations of a people. Jewish religious and political behavior, the progressives and Hasidic in particular, are deliberately severing their connection to the land and to Yahweh. So, while the overall message is abundantly clear, the key to understanding the more subtle inference in this statement requires an analysis of what Yahweh represents metaphorically and spiritually. And that's not immediately obvious because, while Yahweh is clearly defined as the familiar form of Yahweh, there is no Hebrew word da. Although Leah would tell us upon the birth of her son that she was Yada Yahowah. Yada, which is based upon the verb, yada, speaks of acknowledging one's appreciation based upon personal knowledge and familiarity. However, since the Yahweh, Judah represents the southern kingdom, whose capital is Yerushalayim, we know that the people who were given this land were called Yahweh by Yahweh, the singular of which is Yahweh, commonly known as Jew. As fortune would have it, there are two Hebrew and Aramaic words scribed dolet yahud, die, the first of which is vocalized diy. It describes one who belongs to, in the sense of being of or from, someone, being related to them. In this case, die is used similarly to asher, Hebrew's most pervasive relational term. Also relevant, die vocalized day, the second Hebrew word comprised of these characters, speaks of that which is abundantly sufficient. It is used in Shemoth, Exodus 36:7 to convey that there were more than sufficient 603 materials to build the tabernacle. It is then deployed in Korah, Leviticus 5:7 and 12-8 to reveal that alternative resources could be used to achieve redemption. For those with a sense of humor who enjoy translating, compare an accurate and informed rendering of Leviticus 12:8 with the KJV for giggles, but only if you cannot bring a lamb and prefer turtles. Also interesting, the most common derivative of die is deen, which communicates the idea of pleading a cause so as to execute judgment, to contend with and to vindicate. It is commonly deployed in combination with mishpat, see Yirma'yah, Jeremiah 21:12 for example, to describe the means used to resolve disputes and achieve justice. Similarly, deen is conveyed in parallel with shafot, rational decision-making in Mizmowr, Psalm 7:8 or 9, KJV versus JPS, to communicate Yahweh's role in deciding our fate by adjudicating the issues which divide us, providing select individuals with assistance, offering them a defense which vindicates them. Adding some tension to this equation, considering the often adversarial relationship Yah has had with Jews, deen can also mean to argue with, to fight with, and to oppose, even to quarrel and debate. While this is not germane to our understanding of die, addressing the dark side of overwhelmingly positive Hebrew words often illuminates the consequence of taking an adversarial stand against God. Also, since many compound Hebrew words are comprised of contractions, such as Yah and Yahweh which are contractions of Yahweh, it is possible, even likely, that Yahweh is comprised of Yah and Dowd. If so, it means Yahweh's beloved, and it served to unify Yahweh and his son, our Messiah, shepherd, and king, Dowd, David. In ancient Hebrew, which served as the basis for the alphabet deployed to author this revelation, the Wah, has 604 a tent peg secured and enlarged a home, and as a Wah, it brings individuals together. A dolet was drawn to depict the doorway to a home. And the Yahud is the arm and hand of God. This would represent Yahweh reaching out to us, grasping us by the hand, and leading us through the doorway to his so that we can be together with him, even protected and empowered by him as part of his family. It is a beautiful picture. So, with all of this known, to be a Yahudi is, to be related to Yah, to be from Yah and of Yah, it is to be defended and vindicated by Yah, to recognize that Yah is more than sufficient, and to be the beloved of Yah. Therefore, Yahweh's concluding pronouncement reveals that those souls harmed by religion will as a result be cut off from being related to Yah, from being defended and vindicated by Yah, and from being among Yah's beloved. As a result, they will cease to exist. Death will mark the end of life. Such is the fate of those poisoned by Judaism and liberalism. By including the souls of men, women, children, and even infants in the list of those whose souls will be cut off as a result of the harm being done to them by religion, a couple of Christian myths are destroyed. The children of corrupt individuals do not get a free pass to God, and there is no such thing as an age of accountability, before which a child born of religious parents is automatically saved. And yet, Christian apologists will tell you that all children prior to an age where they are thought to be responsible for their own decisions are believed to go directly to heaven should they die prematurely. Neither idea is permissible in light of this declaration. Parents thereby commit their own children to this fate by raising them to be religious. And worse, by not sharing Yahowah's Torah, they preclude them from assessing the instructions required to make an informed choice between 605 relationship and religion. But, and this is critically important, this does not imply that children of the religious are sent to hell, only that they aren't going to be in heaven. The fate of those who are injuring their souls isn't eternal punishment but, instead, ceasing to exist. While we are on this subject, I have another thought to share. In the 25th Mizmowr, Psalm, Daud revealed that the children of covenant members will inherit the covenant's promises. So, there is every reason to think that the children of those who have embraced the covenant will be embraced by God. Listen. All the mannerisms and conduct of Yahowah are merciful and beyond reproach, and they are trustworthy for those who observe and are saved by his family-oriented covenant relationship, and his eternal and restoring witness. As a result of responding to your name, Yahowah, you will choose to completely forgive my sins, because doing so is beneficial. Hence, whatever individual respects Yahowah, he will teach him the way he should choose. His soul will dwell and endure in the most favorable circumstances, and his descendants, Zerah, children and offspring, will inherit the realm. A very close and intimate fellowship with Yahowah is certain for those who respect him, and his covenant relationship, he will make known to them. Mizmowr, Song, Psalm 25:10-14. Therefore, our decisions influence our children in this life, and in the next. Be responsible and choose wisely. Even though the religious believe that their faith is pleasing to God, it is not. That which is associated with, the endeavors and pursuits, the labor, business, activities and work, from to question and asah, that which 606 engages in, acts upon, celebrates, profits from, produces, and does which occupies their time, of your hands and the things you influence, your atem, that which you seek to control, provoke and irritate me, perplexes and incenses me, displeases and annoys me, grieves and frustrates me, especially joining with and blowing smoke on behalf of. Atah, making offerings while engaging in ritualistic religious practices, even creating a smokescreen for, the collection of gods, elohy, on behalf of different deities, in the realm of the crucibles of religious and political oppression, in the land of tyrants and subjugation, where, Asher, you have come, atem, having dwelt as strangers, temporarily living as aliens, there, Sham. As a result, Man, in response, you will be cut off, karat atem, you, plural, will be uprooted and banished, severed from the relationship and cast away, ceasing to exist. And therefore, while Aman, you will come to be, higher atem, the object of curses and scorn, demeaned and disregarded, klala, vilified and considered worthless, slighted and seen as despicable, held in contempt and dishonored, and also, insulted, slurred, and taunted, chirpa, belittled, slandered, and libeled, by, all, shirl, of the Gentiles, Gawim, people of different races and places of the world, sha'eryth. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 44:8. And indeed, this is exactly what has occurred. No people in human history have been mocked, insulted, and slurred more than Jews. In fact, one of the things promoters of communism, Islam, and Christianity have in common is a hatred for these people, which is awkward recognizing Marx, Muhammad, and Paul were all Jewish. Inflicting self-imposed wounds, Jews have been persecuted the world over for thousands of years. So, you'd think that 607 somewhere, sometime, a Yahudi would have figured it out when reading these prophecies, and then urged Yisrael to change. According to Yahowah, there were none. He looked, he listened, and after Malachi in 450 BCE, there was not a single Israelite willing to listen, learn, and then witness to the people. In the 9th statement, Yahowah scolds men and women for the dreadful things they have done in Yahweh and Yerushalayim, criticizing both subject and king. This then leads to the 10th, where God tells us what his people have become and why. So, how have you forgotten, sha'eryth, the horrible harmful things, of your ancestors, by atem, and the calamitous and corrupt shepherding, of the political and religious leaders, Melech, of Yahweh, Judah, Yahweh, related to Yah and Beloved of Yah, even the perversions of their wives and women, in addition to all of your own wrongful thinking and immoral behavior, atem, and the miserable existence of your wives, atem, which they have all committed, Asher asah, throughout the land of Yahweh, Yahweh, as well as in the streets and public places, chungs, right out in the open throughout, Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, the source of guidance on reconciliation. Yirma'yah 44:9. They are not contrite, lo daka, they are not apologetic or remorseful, even to this day, at ha yam hazeh. Neither are they respectful, while lo yeah, they show no reverence or veneration, and they do not walk in, while lo holok bar, so their steps are not guided by, my Torah, instructions and guidance, Torah any, my teaching and directions, or 608 inches, wa bar, my clearly communicated, written prescriptions of what should be done in life to live, wa chukka any, my recommendations and requirements to be allocated a share in the relationship, from cook, my shared and nourishing thoughts which were inscribed in writing to cut you into the relationship, which, asher, I provided, Nathan, I offered. In your presence, la pana atem, and before your fathers, wa la pana by atem. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 44:10. That is a comprehensive list. God is, therefore, not addressing isolated and individual sins. This evil is pervasive throughout Jewish society. It is cultural, religious and political, affecting every walk of life. Sad to say, but according to God, Jews were and remain lost souls. And they still don't get it. They remain religious, and unapologetic. They do not respect Yahowah, and they are not guided by His Towrah. And that is a problem, one without a positive resolution, at least for those who decide to remain political and religious. Therefore, shattering the myth once again that religious behavior is pleasing to God, Yahowah says. So as a result, la ken, this is what, Yahowah, Yahowah, an accurate presentation of the name of Elohy, God as guided by His Towrah, instructions regarding His higher existence, of the command and control implements, tsaba, of the vast array of spiritual messengers and envoys, the God of Yisra'el, elohy Yisrael, promises, amar, says, behold, hine, here and now, my presence, pana any, my face and personal appearance, is set, sim, is established, against you collectively, bar atem, as a result of, la, these errant thoughts and immoral behaviors, this evil and harmful shepherding of the flock, so as to, la, be cut off from, karat, all, of Yahweh, those related to Yahowah and beloved by Yah, Yahweh. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 44:11. 609 The moral of this story is simple enough. All who remain unapologetic regarding their religion, whose steps are not guided by Yahowah's Torah, and whose lives are not aided by His prescriptions will be cut off and excommunicated. Then skipping ahead 11 verses in this same chapter, we find Yahowah citing the name of His Torah one final time. It is set in the context of an overt condemnation of religious behavior. In the 22nd statement, we find Yirma'yah telling the people. Then, Yirma'yah spoke to all of the people, amar Yirma'yah el shel ha'am, to the strongest of the men, al-ha-geber, the males with the strength and ability to stand up and fight, and to the women, al-ha-isha, to everyone, al shel ha'am, who had responded to afflict him, ha'ana'ethu, in this matter, debar la, saying, amar, Yirma'yah 44:20. Yahowah, can no longer endure or overcome, while lo yakol, is incapable of comprehending, experiencing, or resolving, can imperfect, even tolerate, much less forgive, the continuation and extent, or the very presence, od la nasa min pana, of such evil, ignorance, and immorality on your part, ro amal al atem, utter stupidity and regrettable behavior, especially the presence, min pana, of the repulsive religious abominations, ha-tawabah, the abhorrent rites and the detestable worship, which you have engaged in and committed, asher asah. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 44:22. This is because of the presence, min pana asher, of your association with religious practices, kata, your willingness to join others in ritualistic worship, including making offerings, sacrifices, and burning incense, and because, asher, you have missed the way, chatter, to approach Yahowah, la Yahowah. 610 You have not listened to the voice, lo shama bar kaul, of Yahowah, a transliteration of Yahowah as instructed in His Torah, teaching regarding His higher existence. And in, bar, His Torah, His instruction and teaching, His directions and guidance, in, bar, His clearly communicated written prescriptions for living, chukka His inscribed recommendations and requirements to cut you into the relationship, or in, bar, His eternal testimony and restoring witness, His oft-repeated and consistent approach, you have not walked, lo holok, your steps have not been guided. So therefore, al-ken, you will meet with, kara atem, you have invited and will encounter, this miserable outcome, and misleading shepherding, ha-joth, this wicked leadership and horrible misfortune, as will occur, on this very day, ha-yaum ha-zeh. Yirma'yah, rise up to Yah, Jeremiah 44:23. Enough? In fact, way too much. Yahowah can no longer endure or overcome, He is incapable of comprehending or resolving, even tolerating, much less forgiving, the continuation and the extent of such ignorance and immorality on the part of his people. The repulsive religious abominations, the abhorrent rites, and the detestable worship which you have engaged in are utterly stupid and regrettable. Because of their religious practices, they have missed the way to approach Yahowah. Should you be an advocate of Judaism, how long are you going to argue with and anguish God? Is it your contention that your religion is right and that he is wrong? How in the hell is that possible?